Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, getting those creative juices flowing.
Ooh, I like that.
We're exploring Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way.
Ah, a classic for a reason.
Definitely. This book is packed with tools, exercises, so much good stuff to really help you unleash that inner artist.
I think what's really interesting about this book is it's not just about technique.
Yeah.
It really pushes you to kind of tap into
Yeah.
that spiritual side of creativity.
Okay, I like that inner wellspring of creativity.
Yeah.
How do we tap into that?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things Cameron talks about is this practice called morning pages.
Oh, yes.
And basically you're writing 3 pages every morning, stream of consciousness, just whatever comes to mind.
Right. Brain dump.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be good.
Doesn't have to be pretty.
No, not at all. It's more about just like getting it out.
Just getting it out.
Why is something so simple, though, considered so powerful?
What's about clearing out the clutter? Like all those anxieties, those doubts that keep kind of popping up and stopping you.
Yeah.
It's about getting it all out on the page, so it's not swirling around in your head.
I can see how that could be really helpful,
Yeah.
just to like have that clear space.
Yeah.
Cameron shares this really interesting story about a woman named Phyllis, a socialite,
Right.
hadn't written anything in like a decade.
Wow.
Starts doing morning pages, and surprise, surprise,
What a habit.
she discovers she has a talent for poetry.
Oh, wow.
10 years of writer's block, gone.
Just like that.
It's pretty incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, okay, we've cleared some mental clutter with the morning pages.
Yeah.
Now what?
Right.
Cameron talks about the importance of artist dates,
Oh, yes.
which sound way more fun
Sounds much more fun.
than clearing out all that mental clutter.
So much more fun.
So what is an artist date?
Well, think of it as a date, but with yourself. Right. And it's a 2-hour block of time each week that you're dedicating to nurturing your creative spirit.
So it can be anything, really.
Could be anything
Anything that sounds fun.
that sparks that joy.
Okay.
Yeah. Going to a museum, taking a walk in nature, experimenting with a new recipe.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about play.
I like that play element. And the
Yeah.
key here is it's a solo adventure.
Solo.
No distractions,
Yeah.
just you and your inner artist.
Yeah, connecting.
What would your ideal artist date look like?
That's a good question.
What would bring out that inner child's sense of fun and exploration?
I think going to a fabric store,
Ooh.
just looking at all the colors and textures, just seeing what sparks my imagination.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, even when we do things like that, fun things,
Right.
embarking on any sort of creative journey, sometimes we get scared.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
have that resistance.
Kind of your resistance, yeah.
Cameron talks about the creative U-turn,
Yes.
that urge to abandon the whole process when things get hard.
Right, when we hit those rough patches.
Mm-hmm. She calls it the choppy growth phase.
Yeah, we're pushing past our comfort zones, and it's not always comfortable.
No, it's not.
It can feel a bit overwhelming.
Oh, we've all been there.
We've all been there.
You hit a wall, and that little voice starts whispering, maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Right, that inner critic pipes up.
Oh, how do you deal with that voice?
Well, I think the first step is just recognizing that it's normal.
Okay,
It's a part of the process.
so it's not just me.
No, not at all.
Everyone feels this way.
Everyone experiences fear and resistance.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging those feelings
Uh-huh.
and working through them
Instead of just giving up.
instead of letting them derail you.
Okay, so we've acknowledged the fear, but often it's more than just a feeling, right?
Right.
It's these thoughts, these limiting beliefs
Yeah.
that we have about ourselves and our abilities.
Those can be really insidious.
Cameron has an exercise for dealing with these.
She does.
She calls these negative thoughts blurts.
Blurts, yeah, they're like these little thought grenades
Oh.
that just explode in your mind.
What are some examples of blurts?
Oh, things like, it's all just my ego, or dreams are for children, or I don't have time for this frivolous stuff.
I have definitely had those thoughts.
Oh, we all have them.
Okay, so they're normal.
They are normal.
But we don't want to let them control us.
Exactly.
So how do we deal with those blurts?
Well, Cameron suggests writing them down as they come up.
Okay.
It's a way of kind of taking away their power.
Okay.
Once they're out there on paper, you can start to examine them and challenge their validity.
So we're not just letting them bounce around in our heads.
Exactly.
We're getting them out.
Getting them out.
And then we can start to see, okay, is this really true?
Right. Is this a fact, or is this just a limiting belief?
Right. And how is that limiting belief impacting my creative journey?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've quieted the negative voices. At least a little bit. Yeah. How do we actually create an environment that nurtures our creativity?
Well, Cameron talks a lot about the importance of play
Yeah.
and self-nurturing, allowing ourselves to engage in activities that bring us joy,
Even if they seem silly.
even if they seem impractical.
Or like a waste of time.
Exactly.
Okay?
It's about giving ourselves permission to have fun.
Now, I love how Cameron connects play with self-care.
Yes.
Because sometimes we think of self-care as selfish.
Right. Like it's an indulgence.
Yeah, but she's saying it's essential,
It is essential.
especially for our creative well-being.
Absolutely. If you're running on empty, neglecting your own needs, how can you possibly create anything?
Yeah, it's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
You have to fill yourself up first.
Fill yourself up first.
Cameron shares a great story about Michelle, a lawyer who was feeling creatively stifled.
Okay.
She decided to try flamenco dancing,
Wow.
totally out of her comfort zone.
That's great.
And it was through that playful exploration that she rediscovered a passion for self-expression,
Wonderful.
which then spilled over into all areas of her life.
It's amazing how that happens.
It's like that permission to play, to explore, to do something just for the joy of it.
Yes.
It can have this ripple effect.
It can transform your whole life.
Now, Cameron also highlights this element of synchronicity.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain what that means?
Synchronicity.
Yeah, and how it relates to creativity.
So synchronicity is essentially meaningful coincidences.
Okay.
And Cameron believes that when we dedicate ourselves to our creative path, the universe often conspires to help us along the way.
That sounds very woo-woo.
It does sound a little woo-woo,
I kind of liked it.
but there's something to it.
Yeah.
You know, when you're open to it, you start to notice these little synchronicities popping up everywhere.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, how does this actually play out in real life?
Okay, so Cameron shares this story where she was working on a play and the lead actress dropped out at the last minute.
Oh, a nightmare.
Right, a total disaster.
So what happened?
Well, Cameron had this flash of inspiration.
Okay.
She thought of Juliana McCarthy, who turned out to be perfect for the role.
Okay.
And get this, not only was Juliana available, but she ended up being cast in another play at the same theater.
No way.
Yes, and she was brilliantly suited for that role as well.
Wow.
It was like the universe was orchestrating everything.
That's wild.
It is wild.
So it's like when we take that leap of faith, sometimes the universe does meet us halfway,
I think so.
but we have to be open to it.
We do.
We have to be willing to see their synchronicities.
Absolutely.
Now, as much as it's amazing to have those supportive forces guiding us,
Right.
it's also important to recognize those who might be draining our energy
Oh, yes.
and maybe even sabotaging our efforts.
Sabotaging our efforts.
Cameron calls these folks crazy makers.
The crazy makers.
Oh, I think we've all met a few of those.
We all have.
They can be so draining.
They're like energy vampires.
Totally.
Sucking the joy out of everything.
So where do we find these crazy makers?
Oh, they can pop up anywhere.
Mm.
At work, in your family, even in your friend groups.
So how do we know if we're dealing with a crazy maker?
But they tend to be overly critical, controlling, or constantly demanding attention.
Okay, so red flags.
Big red flags.
Cameron gives an example of a crazy maker king.
Oh,
A film director known for his outrageous ego and unpredictable behavior.
that sounds exhausting.
Right, the crew was constantly on edge, just trying to appease his demands.
That doesn't sound like a very creative environment.
Not at all.
So what's the takeaway here? How do we deal with these crazy makers?
It's about recognizing their tactics.
Okay.
And protecting your energy.
Setting boundaries.
Exactly.
Protecting your creative space.
Now let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Talk about the role of emotions in our creative journey.
Right.
Specifically, anger and jealousy.
Interesting.
Cameron suggests that rather than suppressing these feelings,
Okay.
we can actually use them as creative fuel.
Anger and jealousy is fuel.
It's a new one.
It sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah.
It does. But how does that actually work?
Well, think about it. Anger often arises when we feel blocked or frustrated,
Okay.
which can actually be a sign that we're breaking free from old patterns
Okay.
and stepping into our power.
So it's like that burst of energy that propels us forward.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about jealousy?
Well, Cameron suggests that jealousy can actually be a source of inspiration and motivation.
Really?
Yeah, instead of letting it consume us, we can use it to fuel our own aspirations.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we turn jealousy into something positive?
Well, she recommends creating a jealousy map.
What's a jealousy map?
It's where you list the people you envy,
Okay.
and what specifically triggers that envy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can sort of ask yourself, what are they doing that I admire?
Okay.
And how can I channel that energy into my own creative endeavors?
So it's about reframing those negative emotions
Yes.
and turning them into a catalyst for growth.
It's all about perspective.
It is.
All right, along those same lines, let's talk about some of the common fears that hold many of us back,
Okay.
particularly the fear of failure and the crippling effects of perfectionism.
Oh, yeah. Perfectionism can be a real killer.
It's that voice that's always saying, it's not good enough.
Right. And it can really paralyze us.
Absolutely.
It prevents us from taking risks, from experimenting, from just putting ourselves out there.
Cameron emphasizes this idea of filling the form.
Yes.
Can you explain what that means?
So filling the form is about focusing on the process
Okay.
rather than striving for some unattainable ideal.
Okay, so it's not about the end product.
Not just about the end product.
It's about the journey.
Exactly.
Cameron shares a story about Bob, a filmmaker whose promising career was derailed by harsh criticism from a teacher.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's a reminder of how damaging perfectionism and external criticism can be.
It can really crush our creative spirit,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes from someone we respect.
Yeah, so instead of getting caught up in that need for external validation,
Right.
Cameron encourages us to find satisfaction in the act of creation itself.
In the process.
Yeah.
In the joy of making something.
It's about celebrating those small victories along the way
Yeah.
and reconnecting with the reasons why we create in the first place.
Exactly. Why do we do this? What brings us joy?
Now, this brings us to what I think is the core of Cameron's philosophy,
Okay.
embracing the mystery of creativity.
Ah, yes.
She recognizes that it's a spiritual process
It is.
that requires trust and surrender.
Absolutely.
So it's not about controlling every aspect.
Right.
It's about letting go.
Letting go of the need to control.
Allowing ourselves to be guided by intuition and inspiration.
Trusting the process.
Cameron compares the creative process to baking bread.
I love that analogy.
It's like, you can't rush it, you can't force it.
You can't force the dough to rise.
You have to create the right conditions.
Yes.
The warmth, the moisture, the time.
And then it rises naturally.
And then something beautiful emerges.
Beautiful and delicious.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Oh.
let me leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Right?
Imagine yourself at 80 years old, looking back on your life.
Okay.
What creative pursuits did you embrace?
Mm.
What advice would you give your present self?
That's a powerful question.
It is.
I think I'll have to ponder that one for a while.
Maybe even write a letter.
Oh, I like that.
From your future self.
From my 80-year-old self.
To your present self.
To my current self.
Offering guidance and encouragement.
That's a great idea.
Really think about what wisdom you would want to impart
About to do that.
to your younger self.
Thanks for the prompt.
It's a good one.
It is.
It's a good one to sit with for a while.
I'm going to sit with that one.
All right, we'll be back with more from The Artist's Way soon.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned.
That's a powerful exercise for sure.
Yeah, really gets you thinking about what's truly important.
Yeah, does it?
Now, we've talked about nurturing our creative spirit,
Right.
but what about those forces, those self-sabotaging tendencies
Oh, yeah.
that we all grapple with? You know, those things that hold us back.
Absolutely. Those are often rooted in fear
Okay.
and a lack of self-worth.
Okay, so how do those things manifest? What does that look like?
Well, it can look like procrastination, setting unrealistic expectations,
Yeah.
or even surrounding ourselves with people who don't really support our dreams.
It's like we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Right. It's almost like we're unconsciously designing these roadblocks to protect ourselves from disappointment.
Or even success.
Or even success. Yeah, that can be scary too.
Okay, so how do we break free from these patterns?
Well, Cameron suggests identifying those hidden payoffs.
Hidden payoffs.
Yeah, for remaining stuck.
Okay.
So maybe we're avoiding rejection, or maybe we're afraid of how success might change us
Interesting.
or our relationships.
Okay.
So it's about getting really honest with ourselves.
Yeah, what's really going on here?
Exactly.
Now, Cameron introduces this intriguing exercise
Oh, yes.
called forbidden joys.
Forbidden joys. That's a good one.
What are those?
So basically, it's about identifying the things that we deny ourselves,
Okay.
often for seemingly rational or responsible reasons.
Okay.
You know, we think we shouldn't want certain things. So Cameron asks us to list 10 things we love and would love to do,
Okay.
but feel we aren't allowed to.
So it's like acknowledging those desires that we've been pushing aside.
Exactly, giving ourselves permission to dream big.
Now, once we've identified those forbidden joys,
Right.
what do we do with them?
Well, we examine them.
Okay.
We ask ourselves why we've forbidden ourselves from experiencing these things.
Okay.
Are these limitations based on actual constraints
Okay.
or simply fear and limiting beliefs?
It's like bringing those shadows into the light,
Exactly.
seeing if they hold any real weight.
Right. Do they have any substance?
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, Cameron connects these forbidden joys with the concept of luxury.
So, not material possession,
Right.
but the luxury of experiencing pleasure and joy,
Yes.
prioritizing self-care,
Yes.
making space for creative pursuits.
It's about honoring your true self
Okay.
and creating a life that's aligned with your deepest desires.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful concept.
It is.
You know, she tells the story about a man who's achieved wealth and status,
Okay.
but he feels profoundly unfulfilled
Why?
because he hasn't allowed himself the luxury of time.
Mm-hmm.
Time for connection, for hobbies, for simply being present.
It's a good reminder that true wealth isn't about material things.
Absolutely.
It's about those experiences, those connections, the freedom to live authentically.
And it doesn't have to be extravagant.
Right.
Luxury can be found in the simple things.
Yeah, those everyday joys.
A walk in nature, a cup of tea in your favorite mug, a call with a loved one.
It's so easy to forget about those when we're caught up in the hustle.
It's so easy to get caught up. Okay, speaking of inspiration, Cameron has this other exercise called Style Search.
Oh, I love Style Search.
Okay, tell me about it.
It's about becoming more attuned to your personal preferences.
Okay.
Those things that really energize and inspire you.
So how do we do that?
Well, it starts with paying attention to the details of your daily life,
Okay.
noticing what truly sparks joy.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, let's say you're trying to decide between two different activities.
Okay.
Ask yourself, does one cost money and the other is free?
Okay.
Is one done alone and the other is with others?
Mm-hmm.
Is one fast-paced and the other is slow?
Okay, so really getting clear on what you're drawn to.
Exactly. It's like becoming a detective of your own desires.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a fun exercise.
It is.
It can be really eye-opening.
Now, sometimes we get so fixated on the end result,
Yes.
on that finished product,
The product.
that we forget to enjoy the process itself.
Right. We get so caught up in the destination that we miss the journey.
Cameron calls this toxic finished product thinking.
Yeah, it's toxic because it can really stifle our creativity.
How so?
Well, it makes us afraid to experiment, to take risks, to just play and explore.
Because we're so worried about getting it right
Exactly.
and meeting some external standard.
And that can really kill the joy.
It can.
So Cameron suggests we shift our focus from product to process,
Oh, yeah.
from destination to journey.
Finding the joy in the act of creation itself.
Yes, in those moments of flow and inspiration.
Where time disappears.
Exactly. That's where the magic happens.
It's giving ourselves permission to be messy,
Yes.
to be imperfect,
To make mistakes.
to just show up and see what happens.
Exactly, without judgment.
Now, Cameron also challenges this idea of discipline
Oh, interesting.
as the key to creative success.
Okay.
She says it can be useful,
Yeah, it can be.
but also limiting if it becomes about forcing ourselves to create.
Right. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
So what does she suggest instead?
She reframes discipline as filling the form.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It's about those small, consistent actions
Okay.
that support your creative goals.
Mm-hmm. Give me some examples.
So it could be writing your morning pages,
Okay.
taking those artist dates,
Mm-hmm.
or simply making time for activities that nourish your creative spirit.
So it's about creating a structure
Yes,
that supports your creative process
right. A framework.
without stifling inspiration.
Exactly.
Now, sometimes we need a little help along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
We can't do it all alone.
No, we need support.
So who do we turn to?
Well, Cameron talks about finding your believing mirrors.
Believing mirrors.
Yeah, those are the people who reflect back to you the truth of your creative potential
Okay.
and offer genuine support.
And sometimes that support comes from unexpected sources.
It does.
She tells this heartwarming story about a woman going through a divorce.
Oh, wow.
And she found solace and connection with a stray cat.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's a good reminder that comfort and inspiration can come from anywhere.
Absolutely. We just have to be open to it.
Cameron also talks about the power of synchronicity.
Oh, yes.
Those meaningful coincidences that seem to guide us along our path.
Like little winks from the universe.
Exactly. Those serendipitous encounters that open doors to new possibilities.
Right, like you're in the right place at the right time.
She shares a story about a film project
Oh, okay.
that was facing multiple setbacks.
Uh-oh.
But despite those challenges, it ended up selling for a great price.
Well, That's great.
And it even got a headline in Variety.
No way.
It's a good reminder to trust the process.
It is.
Even when things get tough.
Trust the process.
Okay, we've talked about a lot.
Well, yeah.
Importance of support,
Yes.
recognizing self-sabotage,
Right.
embracing the process, trusting in synchronicity.
Absolutely.
But what about those inevitable moments of doubt and criticism?
Oh, yeah.
Like from within,
Right, that inner critic.
from the outside world.
The peanut gallery.
How do we deal with that?
Well, I think the first step is to recognize that not all criticism is created equal.
Okay, explain that.
So Cameron talks about discerning between useful and useless criticism.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Well, useful criticism offers specific insights.
Okay.
It leaves you feeling empowered.
Okay.
Like you can actually use this feedback to refine your work.
So like a mentor giving you constructive feedback.
Exactly.
Okay, what about useless criticism?
Useless criticism is often vague, personal, even cruel.
Okay.
It leaves you feeling demoralized and discouraged.
Yeah, like you just want to give up.
Exactly. And Cameron reminds us that we have the right to reject this type of criticism.
Okay.
We don't have to take it on board.
We have a choice.
We have a choice.
She shares a story, again, about Bob the filmmaker. Oh, poor Bob. His documentary was harshly criticized by a teacher.
That's rough.
And it was so discouraging that he completely abandoned the film.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. It shows how damaging criticism can be.
Yeah.
Especially from someone we respect.
Absolutely. So Cameron suggests being very careful about who we allow to critique our work,
Okay.
especially in those early stages.
When we're most vulnerable.
Exactly. It's about finding those trusted mentors and allies
Okay.
who will offer constructive feedback
Without crushing our spirit.
without crushing your spirit.
Cameron connects this idea of criticism with the concept of artistic child abuse.
Wow, that's a powerful phrase.
It is.
What does she mean by that?
She's saying that harsh and unconstructive criticism
Right.
can be as damaging to our creative selves as emotional abuse is to a child's development.
That's a powerful analogy.
It is. It really highlights the importance of nurturing our creative spirit,
It does.
protecting it from those harmful forces.
Absolutely.
So how do we deal with those inevitable moments of self-doubt?
Right, when that inner critic starts to rear its ugly head.
Exactly.
Well, Cameron suggests an exercise called making your deal.
Making your deal. Okay.
Yeah, it's about surrendering the need to control the outcome of our creative endeavors
Okay.
and trusting in a higher power.
Okay. So how does that work?
So you write down the fear that's blocking you,
Okay.
and then you make a deal with the creative force.
So it's about saying, okay, I'll do the work, but I'm releasing the need to control the outcome.
Exactly. You're surrendering to the mystery of the creative process.
And trusting that inspiration will come.
Yes, if you create the space for it.
Cameron suggests writing, okay, creative force, you take care of the quality, I'll take care of the quantity.
I love that. It's so simple, but so powerful.
It is.
It really helps to take the pressure off.
Now, sometimes we need to be reminded of why we're doing this in the first place.
Absolutely. Why are we creating? What's our motivation?
What's driving us?
Right.
Cameron suggests a visualization exercise.
Oh, I love visualizations.
Where you imagine yourself achieving your goals.
Okay.
You create this mental movie of your desired outcome.
Yeah.
And you allow yourself to fully embody the feeling of success.
Feeling it as if it's already happened.
And you reconnect with your motivations.
Powerful stuff.
It is. So you're not just thinking about it.
Yeah.
You're feeling it.
Feeling it in your body.
So it becomes more real.
More tangible.
She also suggests writing down your goal in the present tense.
Oh, that's a good one.
Describing yourself doing it
Yes.
at the height of your powers.
Powerful.
So it's like you're already there.
You're already living the dream.
Yeah, it's a powerful technique for manifesting your desires
It is.
and aligning your actions with your intentions.
Absolutely. So you're not just dreaming about it.
You're taking action
Taking those concrete steps.
and being honest with yourself
yes.
about what might be sabotaging your efforts.
Sometimes those saboteurs are external.
Okay, like what?
Demanding jobs, unhealthy relationships, lack of support.
Okay, so things outside of ourselves, but often
The big
best obstacles are internal.
Yeah, those are the tricky ones.
Procrastination, self-doubt, negative beliefs,
All that inner gunk.
those can be tough to overcome.
They can be,
Yeah.
but Cameron provides some tools to help us deal with those too.
Okay, what are some of those tools?
Well, she has an exercise called the deadlies.
The deadlies, that sounds ominous.
It does, doesn't it?
So what are the deadlies?
So basically, she asks us to identify 7 things
Okay,
that can negatively impact our lives.
okay.
Alcohol, drugs, sex, work, money, food, and family friends.
Okay, so a wide range of potential pitfalls.
Yeah, we all have our vices.
So what do we do with this list?
Well, for each item on the list,
Okay.
you write down 5 ways
Okay.
that it has negatively impacted your life.
Wow, so we're really taking a hard look in the mirror.
Exactly. No sugarcoating.
Identifying those areas that need attention.
Shining a light on those shadow areas.
Now, once we've identified these patterns,
Right.
what do we do?
Well, we can start to create healthier boundaries
Okay.
and make choices that support our creative well-being.
So it's about taking ownership
Yes.
of our creative journey.
Absolutely. We have the power to create the life we want.
And that includes taking care of ourselves.
Yes. Self-care is so important.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to emphasize the importance of self-care.
I agree. It's essential.
Cameron suggests an exercise called cherishing.
Cherishing. I like that.
It's about acknowledging those small wins and giving ourselves a pat on the back.
Exactly. We need to celebrate our accomplishments no matter how small.
So what does this exercise involve?
Well, you start by listing 5 small victories.
Okay.
Things you're proud of.
Okay.
Then you list 3 nurturing actions you took for your artist.
Okay.
3 actions you could take to comfort your artist.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 nice promises to yourself.
It's like a little love letter to your creative self.
It is. It's about recognizing your worth and treating yourself with kindness.
Because you deserve it.
We all do.
Yeah,
It really is. Those small wins, they matter.
they do.
And speaking of taking care of ourselves, Cameron also talks about the connection between creativity and physical health.
Oh, interesting. What's the link there?
Well, she believes that moving our bodies can actually help us move through creative blocks.
Okay.
She's a big advocate for walking meditation.
A walking meditation.
Yeah, getting out in nature, breathing fresh air, getting your blood pumping. It can really help to clear your head and invite inspiration.
Yeah, I can see that, just shifting your perspective.
Exactly. And she even quotes Brenda Uland, who says, "I will tell you what I have learned myself. For me, a long 5 or 6 mile walk helps, and one must go alone and every day."
Wow, that's commitment.
It is.
But I get it, like making that time for yourself.
Yeah, making it a priority.
And it doesn't have to be a marathon walk.
No, not at all.
Cameron talks about other forms of exercise, too.
Right. Anything that gets you moving.
Running, biking, dancing.
Yeah. Whatever brings you joy.
And helps you connect with your body.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you.
She tells a story about Jenny, a copywriter,
Okay.
who swears by her morning runs.
Morning runs.
Yeah, she says they help her approach her work with more energy and enthusiasm.
I can see that those runs clear out the mental cobwebs.
Make space for new ideas to emerge.
Exactly.
Now, Cameron also touches on the spiritual side of physical activity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she shares a story about Martha, a cyclist,
Okay.
who feels this deep connection with a higher power when she's riding her bike,
Wow.
especially at dusk or early morning.
That's beautiful.
It is.
It's like she's tapping into something bigger than herself.
Yeah, those moments of awe and wonder that remind us of the beauty and mystery of life.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've been talking about trusting the creative process,
Right.
which I think can be really tough,
It can be.
especially when it feels so personal and vulnerable.
It is vulnerable.
Any advice on how to actually do that?
Surrender to the unknown.
Yeah, let go of that control.
Well, it's a practice.
Okay.
It doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But Cameron stresses the importance of silencing that inner critic,
Okay.
that voice of doubt and fear.
Okay.
She suggests treating your creative ideas as children.
Children.
Yeah, like little seedlings
Okay.
that need your protection and encouragement.
Nurturing those fragile early ideas.
Exactly.
Giving them space to develop without judgment.
Yes, without judgment.
About that.
And she compares the creative process to baking bread.
Oh, we've heard that one before.
It's a good one.
It is.
You can't rush it. You can't force it.
Nope.
You create the right conditions.
Okay.
The warmth, the moisture, the time,
Mm-hmm.
and the dough rises naturally.
Surrender to the mystery.
Trust the process.
Speaking of creating the right conditions, what about the people we surround ourselves with?
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah.
Cameron talks a lot about the importance of supportive relationships.
Those believing mirrors
The believing mirrors, yes.
who reflect back to us the truth of our creative potential.
Exactly. And she also emphasizes recognizing and distancing ourselves from those who drain our energy.
The crazy makers and the wet blankets.
The energy vampires?
Yeah. Who can really dampen our creative spark?
Yeah, they can suck the life out of us.
So it's about creating healthy boundaries.
Absolutely.
Spending time with people who inspire and uplift you.
People who make you feel good.
Cameron even suggests making 2 lists.
2 lists.
Yeah, one of friends who will support you
Okay.
and another of those who won't.
That's a good idea.
It can help you become more aware of the energy you're allowing into your life.
Yeah, who's feeding you and who's draining you?
Exactly. And sometimes I think we get in our own way too.
Oh, absolutely.
We let fear hold us back.
Fear of what?
Fear of success.
Fear of success. That's interesting.
Yeah, we worry that success will change us,
Okay.
make us less lovable.
Hmm.
It's the fear of stepping into our full potential.
Wow, that's deep.
It is.
So what's the antidote to that fear?
Well, Cameron encourages us to challenge those fears
Okay.
and embrace the possibility that success can actually enhance our lives and relationships.
So it's not something to be afraid of.
No, it's something to embrace.
It's about growth.
Yeah, and she reminds us that we're worthy of our dreams.
All right.
And that we have the right to create a life that feels joyful and fulfilling.
Absolutely. We deserve to be happy.
It's about letting go of those limiting beliefs,
Right.
stepping into our power.
Owning our worth.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive into the artist's way.
It really has.
Any final thoughts for our listeners on what it means to unlock creative potential?
You know, I think the key takeaway here is that creativity is a gift.
It is.
It resides within each of us.
You all have it.
We all have it. It's not something we earn or deserve.
Mm-hmm.
It's our birthright.
I love that.
And when we feel blocked or discouraged, those are simply invitations
Okay.
to dig deeper, to explore new paths, and to trust in our own creative spirit.
Trust ourselves.
Trust ourselves. It's about remembering that we are all artists in our own unique ways,
We are.
and that the world needs our creative contributions.
It does.
So go out there and create.
yes, create.
Right. Paint, sing, dance, build, design.
Whatever lights you up.
The journey is just as important as the destination.
Absolutely.
Embrace the process, trust your intuition, and never be afraid to make a beautiful mess.
Make a mess.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep creating.